This is the Muckrakers on today's News Talk, TNT.
Welcome back to the Muckrakers with me, Andrew Eborn. I'm joined by Vicky Pryce and Charlie Mullins, and we're looking at the election promises and how that's going to affect the economic policies and business in particular. One of the headlines yesterday was screaming that Rishi Sunak says that Keir Starmer will unpick Brexit and rejoin the EU by the back door. So in 2019, his campaign was get Brexit done. Is it Sunak's? Is he basically saying that Starmer's going to get Brexit undone? What's your view on that, Vicky?
It will be difficult for that to be undone unless there is eventually some referendum or some move to rejoin, which for the moment looks unlikely because it's been basically not mentioned by the Labour Party, except for a bit of rapprochement with Europe during the whole pre-election campaign and before. They've accepted that it's happened. They're saying they don't want to rejoin the single market or the customs union. That's why they say it for the moment. The expectation, nevertheless, is that something will happen afterwards, and there have already been some soft words along those lines. Those words are more in terms of easing some of the trade problems that exist, not really talking about free movement of people, so that's not going to help Charlie particularly, but they are talking about some regulations perhaps being more widely accepted across the two regions, if you like, so that things and people and perhaps sort of services also move a bit more easily in the future. So the interesting thing is that some of the smaller parties, certainly the Lib Dems, are talking about a path to rejoining. The SNP, which is the Scottish nationalists, are talking about certainly rejoining the EU and are very anti-Brexit. What you've seen in terms of the mood of the nation, and I think Labour could easily capitalise on that, is that the majority of people think that Brexit was a mistake. And if there was a vote now, some of the polls suggest that people would not vote to leave and could actually vote to rejoin. But it is a divisive thing in terms of starting a whole campaign. So doing it softly is probably the most likely scenario. The other question, of course, is, does Europe want to talk to us? And there is a lot of concern that Europe had got already fed up with the UK being so difficult during all the negotiations beforehand, that although a trade agreement, which needs to be redone anyway next year or start to be looked again and rethought, may not offer quite a lot of the opportunities that perhaps the UK would like to see, because the Europeans won't want to give anything up at all in the sense, or give anything in, because Britain has caused them so much trouble already, and they're quite happy as they are. Well, I don't know. I think trade is still very, very important for them, and in relation to Britain, and also services. On the service side, the UK has done well in terms of exports to the EU still, which was actually quite surprising. The forecast not to do well, but it's done very well. It's the trade on goods, where we have no tariffs, which is the real problem, whereas there are restrictions on services, non-tariff barriers are there. It's very peculiar how it's all developed, but on goods side, huge bureaucracy out there, and that needs to ease, because if you want growth, and that's the real reason why I think Sunak is now attacking the Labour Party, you can't really get it with all the tinkering which is being talked about now. Certainty, a bit of house building, all that sort of stuff, that's fine. What you do need is to be part of a bigger region so that you attract the type of investment which takes advantage of you just being part of that and being able to have a huge market out there, and one that allows lots of small firms to to operate successfully without any serious restrictions. What we've seen is that trading intentions by small firms have gone down very significantly. The trading the percentage of trade from the UK economy has gone down as well as in terms of GDP. So whereas other countries have done a lot better recently, so it is a big issue. And in many ways, if indeed the attacks of Sunak prove to be correct, I think that would be good for business, frankly. But I only wish that and hope that Labour, once elected, if they are going to be a little bit more courageous in terms of moving in that direction, despite what I think still is going to be a bit of a wall in Europe in terms of what may may not materialise in essence.
And Charlie, I mean, Brexit, so you've spoken very vocally in a number of platforms about the effects on you. What has been the biggest effect on you as a result of Brexit?
Just an increase of costs and an increase of time getting stuff. There's a hell of a shortage of workers, skilled workers, without the free movement. And, because we left the EU, there's a lot of people no longer want to settle over here. So from a labour point of view and a material point of view and a time point of view, I think have been the biggest blows to myself in business. But, again, it would be, I was very much against Brexit. And, I think Nigel Farage was one of the key people that made it happen for the UK. But I'm still joining sides with him because I believe Brexit is done now. We need to get on with it. It's going to muddy the waters to try and pull out of it now, especially with the way the economy is anyhow. But I would think that, we're a trading nation, and to get any business where we can, then, we don't need to be in the EU to trade with the people in the EU. But we've just got to make friends with them, and rather than be enemies with him. And, I just don't see what was the point in the first place of, creating that sort of situation. We turned our back down on 500 million sort of potential customers. And I believe that was a big mistake. But, I think we can still sort of work with them. But unfortunately, they're in control of things a lot more now. And, as you say, Vicky, you know more about it, obviously a lot more about it than me, but a massive mistake what we've done. And I would think that any politician or any government that are in will be happy to increase their trading figures, with the EU.